Shalom, shalom to everyone watching this program, this videotape. Is being done in recorded in English instead of Spanish, which I normally do. Just wanted to share with you that this is not a test. Again, this is not a test. Have some very disturbing information to provide you through this means of YouTube, and I do hope and pray many rabbis are watching this because some of the information on this affects the Jewish community specifically. I'm going to put up a video through my cell phone, which I had posted up before on many of my social media links. But I think it's very important to understand what is really happening behind this COVID issue. And I want you to take a look at this because this is only part of the puzzle. It's a small piece of the puzzle, but it's one that should alert not only the Jewish community, but the whole world. Keep in mind, Hitler, Yamak Shmom, tried to destroy and eliminate all Jews. And the only way and the only reason why he failed is because he didn't have a tabulation or an accounting of them where they were located at. Well, my friends, this has changed. The whole entire dynamic of our world and what's happening is going to change in ways you have no idea. I want you to watch this, and I'm going to post it up.
It is about the size of a grain of basmati rice. So Patrick here is the CIO. Andy is a licensed body piercer, so let it rip. We're going to see this now. I can't look. I can't look.
This is known as chipping.
Chip is in. There you go. Not very much blood at all. Patrick, how'd it feel?
Better than get my wisdom teeth out.
Okay, and you're still conscious.
Yeah, that's right.
Melissa got chipped yesterday, but you had to be talked into doing this. How long did it take you to say yes to this?
I was a little hesitant at first, but I had 7 days to think about it, and once I learned the facts, there was no question in my mind.
Okay, one last thing we want to show you over here. Hold on, Matt. Go ahead, Steve. They can buy their goodies here in the break room by just using their hand. Real quickly, he's going to get a Kit Kat bar. And it's paid for $1.06, guys. So the question
Sounds like a
again
great
is, we asked you
merchant
last
service
week,
program,
are you ready
doesn't
to be
it?
chipped, guys? Let's send it back to you.
But that's not where it ends, my friends, because what they're talking about is more than just chipping. It's not just a implant, and then if you don't like it, you can remove it, and it's respectable. It's going to be going further than that in its application. But also read to you that this in no way is something that those who are God-fearers, Bible believers, should be involved in. Because number one, it's a transgression and trespassing what would be considered privacy issues. It's entering into your body, and it is posting in there information that should not be in there. Obviously, issues of HIPAA law also comes into mind, how this is going to be completely a violation of every sense of human privacy that can be imaginable. I'm going to also play to you a good friend of mine who lives in Los Angeles. I'm going to keep him without being mentioned, who's a fellow Jew and lives in Los Angeles, and is telling me and sharing with me this is not only plausible, but it's happening.
You answer me back on the main group. I contemplated answering back there again, but I think I'll do it here to you instead. If you wish, you can always make it public. I sent that video because, as people who are aware and living within, I don't know if you said a Christian, Christian society. I don't know if it's really so much Christian anymore, or Judeo-Christian, whatever they call it. We hear about these things. We hear about the beast and the Antichrist and the days, the mark on the hand and on the forehead. You can't do business without it. And then you see that there's a reality that's what's happening. I don't think that means that the idea of the beast or whatever is accurate, but I do see that there is some kernel of accuracy as to what's happening in the world around us. And
yes, my
the
friend.
story within the Christian Bible, you're not supposed to mark on yourself because that's not what God's people do. Instead, you die for your beliefs, etc., etc. And as you know, in Judaism, we have this value for life, although we do have a concept of Kirush Hashem. So, my thought I've been saying for a while is that when the COVID restrictions are lifted, there's so much BS. When you look at the science that they keep talking about, the science doesn't really support their position. There was a sheriff of Riverside County who was on the radio yesterday, and he was quoting out of a county of 2 million people, like 170, I think, people died, which is, it was a travesty. That's a fraction of a percent, you know.
By the way, the same thing happened here in Broward County.
Of the population was dying of COVID. The rest
2 million
so
in population, and
0.003%
is the ones been infected.
We're letting out sex offenders who at the end of the term, a few days or a few weeks from release, we're letting those people on the street while we're trying to imprison people for opening up haircutting shops or grocery stores or whatever. It's ridiculous. But I think what's going to happen myself is that whenever we're fed up with this, they're going to say, okay, we're going to let you guys go back, but you all have to get vaccinated, or you all have to be chipped, or you have to all carry this software. A friend of mine a couple days ago upgraded his Android Pixel, a Google Pixel phone, to a new security patch, and it has within it the beginnings of COVID tracking. People can start to track you. And he says you can turn it off, but as we know, when you have a GPS, you turn off your GPS, it's not necessarily off. The government can easily access the data, so even though you think it's turned off, it's not necessarily turned off. And you see right now in California anyway, Google's giving out maps showing where people are social distancing or not, and using a cell phone to track it. And you don't know you're being tracked. It's quote unquote anonymous. But they had that data anonymously. The Post, they had data with all the information on it also. It's just a matter of whether they're using it or not. So I think what's going to happen is they're going to say you must have this chip put into you, or you must have this virus vaccination or whatever it is put into you, and then you can go back to normal. That's how we're going to be able to track people who really are healthy, take care of themselves, when they know full well that the percentage of people that actually die from COVID is so tiny. And here in California, we're saying we don't want you to have the antigen test. It's really not worth it because you might get sick again anyway. Yeah, but if you get the antigen test and show that the percentage of people who are already infected is pretty huge, that lowers their mortality rate to a very tiny number. And then you start saying, well, why do we care? And in Los Angeles, we've had how many people died so far? 2,000 people? We've had 70,000 people. No, it was 700,000 people already this year, I think it said, died of other causes. No one cares about that. But the 2,000 people who died of COVID, oh my God, the world's coming to an end. So that's clearly an agenda. And you listen to people now in general, it's easy to say something's conspiracy, but a person who is discerning can listen, and you hear little comments made here and there that you put them all together into one umbrella or one bag, whatever, you can say, hey, there's something fishy going on. When you have Bill Gates constantly on the news talking about vaccination, talking about tracking people who have COVID, who don't have COVID, who have antibodies for it, and then putting that kind of information on some kind of a chip, and then we're talking about implanting this chip in the people's bodies so they can not know who they are, and then we go from there. There's Real ID here in the country and around the world where you have your information about who you are, and then soon it'll be about your money's going to be on there, and then you have all your vaccination information. You put 2 and 2 together, and you come up with control. You know, it's like, it's going to come, and with an RFID chip, someone has to just scan you. And people are concerned about that on the 5G towers. There are these 5G towers that are causing COVID. I don't think they're causing COVID. There's going to be more and more of these towers with the ability to finely tune where you are located in the world. So nothing's happening because people just want to be nice to you. They're doing it for specific reasons. And, we give up our rights, our freedoms for convenience. I have on my phone, I can say, okay, Google, or I can say, hello, Alexa, whatever. And automatically my voice is being captured, which means that my voice is being captured all the time anyway, just having the phone in my hand. As I'm talking to you, this information is being transmitted somewhere in the background with the Google chat bot. So what do? Do we say we don't put the stuff in our bodies and we single ourselves out? Or do we have that chip inside of us that you say that you can check your DNA, and now knows that you're Jewish, now knows you have a Kohen gene in you, now knows that your mother was from, Ashkenaz, your father from Savad, whatever. You go, oh, there's a Jew. And then what level of percentage of DNA is a Jew? If you have 10%, you're still a Jew. 100% you're a Jew. Hitler, he would have to you if your grandparents were Jewish. What does New World Order go after you if you're, who knows how percentage of you is Jewish? They track anti-vaxxers as deviants. They track Christians as deviants, Jews as deviants. Anything that's going to territory for their narrative is being tracked. So I think it's something coming. The fact that you can put a syringe, like you said, it doesn't need to be that big. It could be much smaller than that. It could be a tiny, tiny thing that's powered by the electricity in your body. On one side, from a perspective of a technologist that I am, I think it's all cool stuff, and I can see how it would be useful. I can see how you can plant a chip in you and say, "Okay, Google," and Google immediately starts talking and you in your head. That'd be so cool. But I can also see how they can have a chip inside your body, and they can then turn on and say, "Okay, I'm going to kill you with this other virus that I have in the chip. Not just a vaccine, but I have a real virus in there, a poison that's going to now kill you instantly if you do the wrong things, or if we're going to do population control. We want to have less people in this, in the county of Los Angeles. Whoop, they're all dead. Why? Well, we don't know. Who knows? COVID, whatever new disease comes about. Anyway, very real things are happening in the world. And as a religious Jew, what do you do about it? You hide your head in the sand. You fight. Do you protect yourself? You take advantage of the stuff where it's possible to take advantage of it. Use it to your own benefit. What do you do? That's the question. What do you do? Obviously, this technology is powerful, and whatever they tell you they have already, they have more than that already. We all know that.
Obviously.
So what they're capable of doing to people. Anyway, that's my comment.
Well, thank you for your comment and your information, your input. I received early this morning some information that came to me from Rabbi McCord of a very disturbing scenario that only one needs to dare to read and see what's happening in reality. This came from originally from a person who put the dots together, a Jenny Meinhardt. And I'm going to read this to you because I think it's important to realize what's happening in the world. And we can't hide our faces nor our heads in the sand any longer. That's why I put this video as this is not a test. This is the real thing happening. Behind the scenes, we have this deep state taking place and really doing everything in their power to try to stop Trump in his ability to be able to administer as president of the United States. We know already about the envy and the hatred that many of the party against him have for him, and why they're against him is because President Trump is mainly more nationalist than a globalist. All the previous Democratic presidents have been globalist, all in favor for a one world order. Most of them. Now, disturbing scenario, indeed. Nobody forces you to believe this. Do your own research. Freedom of thought. Criticism is also welcome. But as she says, Meinhardt says, I won't entertain it because it's actually already being completely tabulated, and there is something happening. Event in 2010, Gates began an entire program to fund various Wuhan laboratories to develop these type of viruses. 2020, we find coronavirus patients equals Gates. COVID vaccine, all of a sudden, Gates is also involved. Other organizations such as the World Health Organization, the NIAID, the CDC, the UN funding, Gates was also involved. Other players involved is Fauci, Birx, Torridos funding, also ties back to Gates, also ties back to Soros. Very important, a man who is willing to bring down the world, all the governments of the world in order to raise a new government. There's also a new economy based on human activity, and it's 060606. Those of you who are in the Christian world are familiar with the numerology of 666, understands that this is the idea of the anti-Messiah or Armillus according to Jewish tradition. And now many Jews have no idea regarding this concept of Armillus because in many synagogues they don't teach it because they emphasize more the coming of Mashiach than they do the coming of the false or pseudo-Mashiach who will come as the world leader to take over control and create a one world government and bring its complete disaster to the world. Now, here is the basis of this new economy. It's hypothesized a simulated global outbreak that took place by the Rockefellers as Lockstep 2010. It creates a very contagious but super low mortality rate, which fits to the needed plan of SARS HIV hybrid research strain created at Fort Detrick Class 4 lab from 2008 to 2018 as part of a research project to find out why coronavirus spreads like wildfire in bats. In other words, this testing has been taking place many years before. They've been working on this for many, many years prior to, funded by many people in the Democratic Party, a lot of billionaires like Soros, like Gates, like Obama, like the Clintons, like a lot of these globalists. So it is very disturbing indeed. As part of a research project to find out why coronavirus spreads like wildfire in bats, but have an extremely hard time infecting humans, hence the four HIV inserts, also known as the missing key to infect the human ACE2 receptors. It creates weaponized versions of the virus with a much higher mortality rate as a backup plan ready to be released in phase 3, but only if needed. In other words, depending if the world is susceptible or willing to submit to this new world order or new world system. It's weaponized. It's tribed strain created in Fort Detrick Class 4 lab in 2015. Transport the research strain to a different class of 4 laboratories known as the National Microbiology Lab in Winnipeg, Canada, and have it stolen and smuggled out by China, Xi Zhengli, on purpose and taken to China only on Class 4 Wuhan Institute Virology in Wuhan, China, for added plausible deniability and help cement the wanted backup public script as something to fall back on an if needed primary script, being its natural backup script, being the China created it and released it by accident. Oops, I did it by accident. Fund all talking heads. In other words, Fossey, Birx, Tidro, Obama, anyone that talks positive about the funding of this laboratory in order to heal the world, which is doing just the opposite. And the agencies such as the World Health Organization, NIAID, CDC, the UN, that would be involved with this pandemic response prior to the planned release of the research strain to control the wanted script throughout the operation. How is it possible? How is it possible that Fossey and also Gates knew about this pandemic that was going to take place during the Trump presidency? How did they know that? Because they were involved directly. They are, as far as I'm concerned, evidence shows that they've been involved in this research and this dissemination to make this happen as we have today. They must be investigated by all tribunals of all different governments. I believe they have to be investigated to the cahoots. They are involved in a conspiracy to bring down the governments of the world to create their own one world government. It doesn't end there, my friends, because we also have that after all of this, we have that they create and fund vaccinations, developments, and rollout plans to it's capable of being rolled out on a global scale. Here we have Gates again, decades of vaccine, global vaccine action plan, 2010 to 2020. It doesn't end here. Create and fund vaccinations, verification, certification protocols, digital IDs. Here we come with this idea of chipping to enforce, confirm the vaccination program after mandatory rollout is enacted in 2020. This is Gates identified. Simulate the locksteps hypothesis just prior to the planned research strain, releasing using a real-world exercise, a final war game to determine expected response and timeline outcomes. Gates indicated this in 2019 of October. My friends, we are looking at the realization of a business plan that Gates put forth together along with a lot of his cohorts who are interested in a global one world government. Downplay the human to human relationship. But let me go before that. Release a research strain at the Wuhan Institute of Virology itself and then blame its release on a natural scapegoat and wanted primary script, the Wuhan wet market of November 2019. Oh, it was the bats infected. It's a pandemic. No, this is being done purposely. Downplay the human to human transmission for as long as possible to allow the research strain to spread on a global scale before any country can lock down and respond to avoid initial infection. Once a country has seed infection in place, lock down incoming and outgoing travel, but keep transmission within the country spreading for as long as possible. This is what we have as the shutdown. Once enough people in the country and region are infected, enact forced quarantine isolation for that area and expand the lockdown regions slowly over time. Over the high mortality rate by tying the research strain to death that have nothing to do with the actual virus, and to keep the fear and compliance at a maximum. If anyone dies for any reason and is found that they have COVID it's considered COVID death, if anyone is thought to or maybe had symptoms of COVID, we must assume that they have COVID. In other words, that even hospitals will be able to profit off of this by calling death as not related to COVID as COVID, and thus strengthening the fear in public. My friends, you will see that the press and the news agencies are falling in line to this entire script. Every day we hear about COVID death when it's in fact a small fraction of people that are dying. Keep the public quarantine for as long as possible to destroy the region's economy, create civil unrest, unbreak the supply chain, cause the start of mass food shortage, as well as cause people's immune system to weaken due to their lack of interaction with other people and other bacteria outside the world, also known that it keeps our immune system alert and active. In other words, isolate them. My friends, what's been unleashed on the world is nothing more and nothing less than an actual attempt of world control by certain people, by a group of people that want to have complete control of the world, a new world order. Doesn't end there, my friends. Downplay any attack and potential treatments and continue to echo that only a cure is viable to fight this virus, aka a vaccine. Here we have the danger. The danger spells when the vaccine is issued. Continue to drag out the quarantine over and over in 2 weeks interval, causing more and more people to eventually stand up and protest and defy them. Eventually, the end phase of first quarantine one, the first phase of the quarantine, once they get enough public pushback, June 2020 is what's estimated, and publicly state that they still think it's too early. What is Fauci saying? Why did Fauci self-quarantine himself? One, to create more alarm, to alarm even those in the White House. Oh, I've been exposed to someone who had it. Did he have it? No. So why is he quarantining himself? Because he is the head, as it were, of the medical scientist world. That's why if you heard his remark, it's completely a mockery. It's following the script that he has been given by these people that want to control and bring everything. Does he have a lot to profit up? 100%. He has a lot of interest in the laboratory pharmacology area. And it's interesting that in one literature, mystical literature, not necessarily considered Jewish in its genre, but apocalyptic in its genre, makes mention that the world would be deceived by the use of this medical facility, these medical facilities, pharmacology. Eventual enactment of phase 2 begins when? Between August and September. Once the public goes back to normal, wait a few more weeks and then continue over the hype. The research strain mortality rate between August through September 2020, combining with an increase in death due to people dying from the standard illness at a higher rate than normal due to highly weakened immune systems from the month of being in isolation to hype further pad the mortality rate and hype up the upcoming phase 2 lockdown. Now, eventually the the enactment 2 of the quarantine, October through November 2020, or even more extreme levels, and blame the protesters, most people who don't trust their government already, for the cause of the larger second wave. We're told it was too early. It's your fault. You needed a haircut. You need your freedoms. You need to go out. So they're going to create another havoc. Enforce phase 2. Let me have a little bit of coffee because this is powerful. Enforce phase 2 of the quarantine. Much more extreme level, increasing the penalty of defiance. Replace fines with jail times. Deem all travel as non-essential. Increase checkpoints, including military assistance. Here comes our National Guards to make sure that we are obeying our government, that we are obeying these orders in the name of health and protection and welfare of its citizenry. So it comes very, 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 very in peaceful ways. Increase tracking and tracing the population. Mandatory apps take over control of food, gas, large-scale shortage so that people can only get access to essential products and services if they are given first permission. Here we have the notion, both in apocalyptic literature, eschatological literature, that says, and they will tell you what you can buy and sell and do merchant and trade. This is the control that it talks about in many eschatological genre literatures, both Jewish as well as non-Jewish. My friends, this is not a test. This is happening. If the people don't arise and create laws to block these individuals and investigate these people, we will have very soon a new world order that will destroy the world and what we understand it to be. Keep phase 2 lockdown in place for a much longer period. Then phase 1 lockdown, continue to destroy this global economy, further degrade the supply chain, and further amplify the food shortage and the alike. Quell any public outrage using extreme action and force, making anyone who defies them appear as public enemy number 1 to those who are willing to submit. In other words, intimidation through the use of power of law. After a rather long phase 2 lockdown, 6 months, roll out the vaccination program and vaccine certification, making it mandatory for anyone, giving priority access to those that submitted from the start, and have those that are at the first for its attack that are against it, saying that it's a threat and cause all problems. We can't go back to normal until everyone takes the vaccine. People define them are hurting our own way of life, and therefore they are the enemy, the resistors. The enemies of the state, of the new coming world order, are those that will refuse to take the vaccine, refuse to take the identification, the chipping. These will become the new enemies of the state, and they will be isolated and treated like complete illegals. If the majority of people go against the agenda, then release the weaponized SARS, HIV, MERS, tribid strain as phase 3 of the virus, with a 30% plus mortality rate as a final scare to push the minority to quickly become the majority and give a final solution. We told you so, those who didn't listen. Enact the new economy model according to the Microsoft patent. Notice this number. Microsoft patent, those of you who are researchers can look it up. Microsoft patent 060606, cryptocurrency system using body activity data. What is that? That means that now that they have an identifier inside of you, they can now track you, track your buying habits, track your GPS, where you're located at, who are you in contact with, who do you speak with, who you don't speak with, what you're doing, when you're doing it, complete micromanagement of your private affairs in such a degree that it will reflect beyond Orwell's 1984. It is based on behavior and willingness to submit, tweaked version of Black Mirror's 15 million merits, using food, water, shelter, and other essentials as a weapon of enforcement of the new economic system. Basically, do what we want and get rewarded, gain credits, score and gain more access to things you need to survive, or go against what we want to get penalized, lose credits, score, or lose access to things you need to survive on. You want water? you got to submit to the system. You want food, you have to submit to the system. You want clothing, you have to submit to the system. Welcome, my friends, to the New World Order. And I would like to add that if anyone thinks this isn't true, all you have to do is check out parts of China. They have already the cryptocurrency system in place in certain areas, and it is being implemented in China. You cannot go without being tracked to see who you contact with, who are you to be in touch with. Refusal of such vaccine equivocates your death sentence. Interesting enough, many literatures of apocalyptic literature makes reference of this, and it's scary. I emailed this information to several rabbis, and rabbis in Israel are already aware of it, and they are discussing issues of halakhic precedents never before, because you have the issue of 4 reasons why we have to give our lives for. One of them is for murder. That if you know your friend is introducing something into another body to murder them, you have to be willing to give your life for that. Idolatry. This system is an idolatrous system, making mankind, these select few of elitists who have billions of dollars in revenue to control the whole world and to remove you from having your privacy maintained in private. Number 3, you have the issue of adultery, immorality, unfaithfulness. And you have the issue of a violation of yourself. So you have more than 4 reasons why to reject this type of system and be a resistant to this and go against it and go out there. My friends, it's time to buy a gun. It's time to realize that a complete investigation of this issue must take place. You should call it immediately and not hold back. Call your congressman, put laws into place so that these people cannot emerge. It's happening because of the technological advances that we have. My friends, this is not a test. Let me say that again. This is not a test. This is happening just like the script I just read out to you. It is the plan of action. Watch things develop. Watch as things develop from one disease to another. Now it's the Kawasaki disease that's having effect, that is somehow more changing its degree. And all of this will be activated. Once you have that vaccine, will be activated by the 5G towers. They will be able to kill entire population or unwanted people just by the press of an activation button that you can't see, but they know we need to kill this guy off because he is going beyond that. And these towers are already placed everywhere. Don't you think it for one moment it's for wireless use? My friends, we are in a wireless time. And meanwhile, this Google platform is still up and running, and they don't close this video down. Send it out, because, my friends, I don't know how long Google will be allowing this type of videos, information to go out to the general public. There's going to be a lot of monitoring. Even Facebook was talking about monitoring their YouTube. But this is an alert. It's not an alert. No, it's not an alert. This is not a test. This is happening now. It's time to change. If you want change, you have to get activated. You have to be aware of what's happening. Rabbis are now are coming together to make legal halakhic decision as how to react if this comes to fruition exactly as the script has been read off in this video. And there are many information you'll find through YouTube that this is happening. It's no longer if, it's now. It's happening now. Wake up, people. Wake up, Jewish people. This will have a very, very deadly effect upon the Jewish people, because this world system doesn't like Jews, doesn't like Israel. It's anti-Jew. It's anti-Israel. It wishes to disseminate, completely destroy the Jewish people, because we have been in the forefront of religious freedom, of individual freedom, of everything, and contrary to what they want to implant. God help us, and may Mashiach come now, but you need to do something today if you don't want the system to take precedence in your century, in your life now. This is not a test.